So it provides the training opportunities needed to build a workforce that is fit for purpose for the employment opportunities of the 21st century. Stronger linkages with business and industry will be forged to ensure the relevance and cutting-edge nature of the training programs offered. The new direction will include incentives to encourage employers to establish apprenticeship and internship programs that match the needs of business and industry with the course offerings of our tertiary and our skills training institutions. We must ensure that the synergies between industry and business and training institutions are as strong as possible. Madam Speaker, I move to social transformation. Social transformation is a pivotal element of repairing the breaches in our society, and we must focus on this as a central part of our formula for development. Transforming our society goes hand in hand with education and culture. When former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson spoke of implementing a values and attitudes program, his adversaries of the day laughed him out of this chamber. But he saw what was happening to society from then, and he was right. We won't let that happen to us. Daily life in Jamaica confirms the descriptions of this country as now being a place of fear, of struggle, of suffering, with low social trust. In such a society, life is insecure and seems to be of little value. Insecurity speaks to some of the creeping things we see around us that rattle our national well-being. Our people feel insecure when Friday evening comes and it is a battle to get money from an ATM machine, and when the banks are going cashless and branches are being closed all over Jamaica. Our people feel insecure when they go to buy a little food and the card machine doesn't work. Insecurity comes from the exclusion felt by many who are told they are too this or too that when it comes to the color of their skin or how they speak, who face less pay in their areas of work because of gender disparities. And gender issues continue to bedevil our economy, with women typically earning less than men. Insecurity comes from people who are excluded from access to so many basic needs of life because they are persons with disabilities. And we passed the disabilities legislation under the last PNP government. This government took 7 years to get the basic regulations in place and bring it into effect. And it needs to be ramped up and really delivered so that it is transformational for the people in this country who are suffering from disabilities. And insecurities are reflected by those who struggle to keep themselves and their families alive, and the mere pittance provided by the current rate of NIS pension and poor relief, as the Shadow Finance Minister illustrated so clearly last Thursday. These problems of kind insecurity in the nation are reflective of the intractable poverty, inequality, and alienation and exclusion. The Shadow Finance Minister told us last Thursday, and it's worth repeating, 20% of the population is estimated to live below the poverty line, and 30% of the population are deemed what some people call squatters. Though the category of poor typically emphasizes those living below the poverty line, poverty really overlaps with those who are working on minimum wage or earning close to that, because life is just not affordable at those rates of income. And the World Bank, their figures illustrate that 3/5, that's 60% of the country's wealth is owned by a mere 10% of the population. These factors cause the insecurity and complex trauma that our people endure. We want to see confident and productive Jamaicans producing wealth, but at least my Integrity Commission return has been certified. We want to see confident and productive Jamaicans producing wealth in an environment of respect, stability, gender balance, and care. To do this, we will pay great emphasis on community-based interventions that focus on anti-violence, anger management, parenting skills, and overall stability. We will substantially increase the number of social workers to take on these critical tasks. And we will revamp and expand proven and effective crime reduction programs like the Peace Management Initiative, Unite for Change, and indeed Restorative Justice. Madam Speaker, Jamaicans are living with a heightened sense of insecurity, and everybody feels compelled to sleep with their doors and windows locked tight. The exceptionally high crime rate has been a burden on Jamaicans for decades, and Jamaica remains one of the most violent countries in the world. Crime and violence are conditions created by the whole society, and we cannot ignore the links between inequality and crime. We must think in terms of social responsibility, which is why we favor interventions for youth at risk instead of giving up our fundamental constitutional rights. The increased militarization of law enforcement is not a strategy that we endorse. It is dangerous, and it has not proved to be effective. The ineffectiveness of the government's approach is underscored by the fact that in 2022, after 6 years of this government, there were approximately 53 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants in our nation, and Jamaica maintained the position of the highest homicide rate in Latin America and the Caribbean, one of the highest in the world. Globally, militaries defend against external threats. Why is our military being increasingly involved in policing work? 2 years ago, I observed that the size of the military, the JDF, is growing rapidly. I noted that on the trajectory that it was on, it would soon exceed the police force in a few years. Similarly, the capital budget of the military has systematically and massively outstripped that of the police force when we have a crime and violence problem in this country. That policy does not make sense. Military expenditure, spending on the JDF, more than doubled to $36 billion over the 7 years that the JLP has been in power, an increase in real terms, adjusted for inflation, of over 40% since 2017. Double the rate at which spending on the police force increased. Increased spending on the military is also attached to the continued use of states of emergency as routine crime fighting tools. Under states of emergency, citizens can be detained without charge for indefinite periods of time. It is a threat to our democracy to use that as an ordinary policing tool. And that is why we have filed an action asking the Supreme Court to rule definitively that it is unconstitutional. Our position on crime and violence and the delivery of justice for our people remains consistent. We believe in a balanced approach, using both crime control as well as crime prevention measures. A balanced approach is essential to social harmony and crime reduction. It cannot be achieved through oppressive laws that trample on the rights of our people. We will vigorously tackle the major root causes of violent crime in a systematic way, while also properly equipping the police force and the justice system with legislation, tools, technology, and human resources to carry out their work. It is not possible to do one without also doing the other. We believe that community intervention and targeted resources are essential to achieving sustained violence reduction. It is not good enough to outsource community intervention to the private sector through Project STAR. It's not good enough. We support the private sector, we commend their efforts, but they do not have the resources to do this on a national scale. We will prioritize and invest in effective forms of social investment for crime prevention to accelerate the sustained reduction of violent crime. I've mentioned that the Peace Management Initiative, which has earned significant successes in different communities, will be revamped, revitalized, and made to work in hotspots across the country. We have seen over and over again in Jamaica how reprisals kill and maim the innocent, including our precious children. We must train and resource teams of violence interrupters on the ground in these communities to intervene early in conflicts and avert escalation into spiraling reprisals. That is a critical method for managing this situation, and the government has dropped the ball. We will train and empower 500 violence interrupters across Jamaica to help to maintain calm and good order in areas prone to high levels of violence. This must be supported also in our schools with school-wide positive behavioral interventions through the Ministry of Education. And from an enforcement perspective, what is